who has moved to the US, I think, a couple of years ago. And he's going to give us two presentations in one. Cardiothoracic surgeons and skills for structural intervention, and also TMPR today, access routes and sizing for transcatheter mitral valve replacement, clinical and technical considerations. Dr. Bapat.
Thank you very much. No disclosures for this because this is a philosophical talk and it's my personal journey. I'm going to rattle through it quite fast and hope you enjoy this talk. So I think wire skills is, first of all, a very misunderstood term. I think to be a hybrid surgeon, you need to have very good open skills because if the problems happen, you have to sort them out. We saw yesterday and today about my interesting cases and the worst disaster that TAVI or TMVR, if it goes well, is the easiest operation you do. But if it goes wrong, then it becomes the most difficult clinical scenario. So I think you have to have a lot of understanding about echo imaging, CT imaging, research and development to understand the limitation of technology. So this is a traditional surgeon, type A personality, one-man team. I was like that. And all the people I trained under were definitely like this. And then as it is before Christ and after Christ, I think for me, my life has been before TAVI and after TAVI. And I think this is a personal professional development. So pre-TAVI, I was doing around 250, 300 open cases, no problem, just taking on everything, focus on very traditional surgery, thinking that nothing is going to change. And then came TAVI, and the first thing it introduced was a heart team or multidisciplinary team. I think heart team is very loosely used, as in every beauty contest, you ask the contestant what you want to be, and they say Mother Teresa. I think in all the TAVI meetings, everybody says heart team. You walk out of the door, it's again very different. But I think it really taught me to respect other professions much better. And the focus was always on patient, like what can I do best for the patient? The second thing which struck me is, I know probably you have read this book, Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus. I think same applies to surgeons and cardiologists. We have very different personalities. But I think it became that, working with cardiologists actually triggered innovation. And me and Mike were discussing yesterday that we know more cardiologists now than surgeons all over the world. And it's just amazing. So the first step was basic skills. And basic skills, everybody has to start somewhere, however old or young you are. For me, it was 2008. And this is with Martin Thomas that time. I really had no clue what I was doing, how to inflate a syringe, forget passing the catheter, keeping my left hand steady and right hand moving. It was very, very hard. But I realized that this is different and not difficult. We do difficult operations as well. We have adapted to robotic surgery. We have adapted to MI surgery, different mitral surgery. So this is, you have to just respect the skill and you will learn it. Then working in fluoroscopy environment was very hard. This is one of our first few TAVIs. You can see there's hardly any place to move. Then I had a headlight. I had, light on the top, loops. And through that, I was looking at a screen which was 9 feet away from me, trying to figure out, is the Sapien first generation valve is bit high or bit low? And you can imagine the confusion caused in my own mind. The first approach was TA, and most surgeons liked it if you retrospectively look at it. Why? Because it was simple. Nobody wanted to learn something more difficult than this, because this you couldn't cross antegrade easily, etc. But actually, this was not straightforward. We had a lot of problems with transapical approach. We had a lot of problems with wires. And I think we learned from this that you need to learn these new techniques very, very well. So after learning that, the second step went to, I think, imaging, innovation, and bailouts. And the reason I say it is, I traveled a lot to teach TAVI very early. I had done only 2 cases of TAVI when I started actually teaching people TAVI. So what I learned, the first thing I learned walking into a lab was, I have no clue about echo. I cannot measure the size because Jane Hancock in my center and now Becky and Omar, they do the sizing. So for me, going to a new center, somebody turning to me and saying, should we use 23 or 26? I had no clue. And I think what I did probably was, like in golf, should I use 7 iron or 8 iron? Just look at the wind and say, okay, let's take 26 and see how it goes. It did actually, I took a lot of effort after that. I started attending transesophageal echo, TTEs in my lab when I had free time. I started learning so-called my blind spot, and slowly I became better at it. This is just to show you that one of the most important thing was decision making. This is a patient in Lithuania who was put on the table, and you can see that we were ready to do TAVI, and there was a big mobile mass there, and I had to stop the center from doing TAVI. They were very keen because the TV channels were ready to record the case. Annulus size, as I mentioned, was the most important thing I learned. The second thing, surgical knowledge really helped, because I knew, looking at bicuspid valves when we operate, that probably again these are going to be issues. And some things which we don't discuss in bicuspid is we discuss everything else, but most of us who have operated on bicuspid know that just below the commissure you can have heavy calcification. And this is actually one of the morphologies we are studying in detail now. We are documenting it again in open heart surgery so that we can understand which bicuspids are good and which bicuspids are different. So in my mind, people use different classifications, type 0, 1, 2. Some people use radiological classification. For me, it's very simple. Dangerous bicuspid and not dangerous bicuspid. So dangerous bicuspid is where one cusp is heavily calcified and immobile. And second important thing, which nobody looks at present, is one of the coronary ostia very near the commissure. And we know as surgeons very well that this is what we see. The not dangerous one is where when I do BAV, both the leaflets are mobile and the balloon is central. So I promised you I'll show you one of my complications. This is my first bicuspid hit. Look at that. I mean, this is an angiography. Root looks abnormal. I think this should have triggered us that time. These are non-CT days. And we did a balloon. You can see, look at that. The balloon is inflating on one side. It's not central. But we still went ahead with a 29 sapien. And look what happens is the 29 sapien inflates only this way. And at the end of it, with the root shot, you will see that it actually never reaches the other side. And this actually really taught me, this is a patient, which ruptured into RALA. I had to do a very complex reconstruction. This patient I survived, but with a stroke in the end. So second thing I learned was calcification pattern. This is a 91-year-old we were ready to take on for TAVI. Looks quite all right. 3 cusp, evenly distributed calcium, no problem at all. But then on echo, we spotted something else, is this. This calcification, if it had opened up, this would have ruptured into the root or something and caused a lot of damage. So I did a mini AVR in this 91-year-old. So we realized that surgical knowledge actually comes very handy. CT was fantastic. My knowledge was really zero. Aortic dissection, aneurysm, you can put a scale, 5 centimeter and more. And actually that was it, really. But it changed, and it changed with this one particular case because I started doing transaortic. This was a case discussed from Birmingham, actually. They got this patient where they had total pneumonectomy. That time, the TA access at subclavian was not possible. TF was not possible as well. So what do? I gave it to a friend of mine who is an echocardiologist. He's actually a Greek cardiologist who is a very close friend of mine. He is a Mac super user who advises Apple on how to develop platform. And this guy is a whiz. So I gave him the CT, and this is 2009, early 2009. He reconstructed this image. I nearly fell backward. I said, whoa, what is this? He said, look, Vinny, if you go through the second space on the right side, this is what you will do. I said, really? So we did that. And look at these images. He gave me these images nearly 10 years ago. And we did exactly same. We went through that, trusting him, stamp, and then we got into aorta. We did a beautiful transaortic case. Second case, I came back and I thought I have to learn this program. So every evening I used to spend 2 hours with him just to get used to this 3D reconstruction business. And everybody told me this is all bullshit. 3D reconstruction not needed. We understand cross section. 27-year-old female who developed multiple emboli in the left upper limb. CT was done, discussed in the vascular meeting that there is this thrombus, let's anticoagulate this patient and it's going to take care of it. I took the CT out of interest to just reconstruct it really. I didn't know what I'm looking for. I just felt that high flow area, why there is a thrombus sitting there. there must be something wrong with the aorta. And nobody believed me, radiologists, vascular surgeons. Reconstructed it. You can see a beautiful penetrating ulcer. And this ulcer was the cause. So we operated her. And then what we found, exactly what we found on the CT, a penetrating ulcer with a thrombus on it. We did our ascending replacement. Funny enough, within 6 months, I had 3 more referrals for the same pathology who were sitting on warfarin with multiple emboli. So the initial perception of CT, it's difficult, it's extremely expensive, time consuming. I think it's all wrong. I can do all these things very quickly now. And actually, I get a 3D visualization of what, as a surgeon, I understand. And I plan most of my surgeries on these 3D reconstructions. You might even get a compliment, and this is a compliment I just got last week, that this is Omar Khaliki, who I really respect as a CT and echo person. He's probably the best I've seen yet. He says, this is a sad day when a surgeon taught me something about imaging. And this is because they misinterpreted Teflon pledgets on the apex as aneurysm. And they called me and I said on the phone, no, these are Teflon pledgets. So I think there's actually, it's nice to learn all these things and apply it. Coming to real wire skills, finally, you should learn all this because, as Mike said today, there's transfemoral and alternative access is, I think, gone now. I think everything is probably one. And I think this is very important to learn because in a given patient, you can make a very solid decision because you can do all accesses yourself. Then you are not biased towards one and you try and push boundaries. Post-TAVI, I think this was the fun part. TAVI became one thing, but the post-TAVI development was the best part, why I got involved in this. For MR, for PV leaks, for MAC, for stents, you can name a thing, and it was just dropping from the ceiling all over the place. Valve in valve, the only reason we could provide guidance is because as a surgeon, we were implanting surgical valves. We knew the limitations, we knew the advantages, we knew what we are doing. So I think this gave me some, I think, at least advance and understanding to give guidance in this. Same thing with mitral annular calcification. All these things, the sizing algorithms, which valve we can use in it. The only reason I probably understand this a bit better is because I'm a surgeon. If I was not a surgeon, I had to probably imagine all these things and learn retrospectively from what works and what doesn't work. So again, this is something which we are heavily involved in at present with very intelligent group of surgeons as well as cardiologists and imaging specialists. And this is why I think my role as a surgeon became very, very important in this field. I observed embolizations in mitral valve in valve. Same thing. Again, and this is the first time actually many years ago now, then I published the first paper on this saying, if you are doing a mitral valve in valve, you have to achieve a wedge shape. And this is what is practiced all over the world now. Same thing as LVOT. The first case reported on LVOT was, it was unfortunately done by me. I did a valve in mitral, a live case for London Valve, and she came back after 6 months with a severe gradient. I had to reoperate her. We studied the whole subject. We did a lot of animal and bench testing, came up with some basic criteria. Again, this was too much before the time, I think, and that didn't get to exposure. But today, it has become the most important thing again. So we introduced some basic, simple criteria for this. And lastly, but not the least, I think, is reintroduction of transapical access. As Mike has already shown, the TMVR, neocords, complex PV closures, type A stenting in some form or the other in future might all be from transapical. And I think this is why, as a surgeon, I think, being involved in this, and if you want to get involved in it, I think you have to start from basic and you have to follow this whole journey. Young surgeons come to me and I say that, don't you think it's too late? I don't think it's too late. In fact, now the whole field is just developing, and if you have the right partner, then I think you can take this on and actually you can contribute to this field much, much better. Thank you. Can we go to the next talk?
You need a glass of water?
No, I'm okay. I'm just getting warmed up. I'm trying to stick to the time, actually. So let's see.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Without any comments or questions, For us, the surgeons, you open a little bit of a window to the light, because at the time that cardiac surgery absorbs pressures and various innovations from cardiology standpoint, it's nice to see that surgery, with being open-minded and being innovative, can stand alone and keep up with the progress. So we really enjoyed your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.